Welcome to ACR Health's Nutrition Education class. My name is Shirley, and I'm one of the program's nutrition health educators. This month, I want to talk to you guys about food safety. Food safety is really important because we want to prevent foodborne illnesses, and we do that by stopping harmful bacteria. We don't want bacteria to get into our body and cause problems like illnesses, so we can practice food safety at the store, at home, while cooking, and while storing and reheating food. There's really 4 pieces to being food safe. There's cleaning, there's separating, there's cooking, and there's chilling. And that might sound a little weird right now, but we'll kind of dive into each one in a little bit. Today, I want to start with a video. It's depicting a family practicing food safety do's and don'ts. Towards the beginning, you see the family putting their groceries away, and you definitely will catch the kids doing some food safety don'ts that I'm sure you're aware of. Luckily, the mom becomes aware of it, she swoops in, and she kind of teaches them the right way to do things. So I'm going to play this video. I might pause it a few times throughout it to kind of talk about the main points being shown. And afterwards, we'll go through some handouts to recap some of those.
Although this kitchen looks clean, it's crawling with millions of microscopic germs you can't see, smell, or taste. Harmful bacteria lurking throughout the kitchen, responsible for millions of cases of foodborne illnesses each year. Because a hygienic kitchen depends not only on clean counters and floors, but also on safe food handling practices. This spotless-looking kitchen is actually crawling with dirty little secrets.
Bags over here, guys. Oh, not now, Magoo, not now. Go back up here, pal. Let's get these groceries in here fast, guys, to keep them safe. Hey, do me a favor, guys. Put those groceries away real fast for Mommy while I get the phone. Hey, how are you?
Opportunities to keep your food safe occur again and again, particularly when you shop, store, prepare, cook, and clean. When grocery shopping, buy cold foods last and get them home fast. Avoid overcrowding. Cool air must circulate to keep food safe.
Hold on. Let's see what they've done here. Oh, my gosh. I don't believe. What have you guys done? Look at this mess. I have to go help. Are you kidding? Bye. What have you got? Who put toilet tissue in here? Who did this? Which one of you did that? You did that. I love you guys.
Refrigerate perishables such as meat, fish, poultry, dairy, and egg products immediately.
First, let's get rid of the old stuff like this. This is so...
Store leftovers in dated airtight containers. Spoiled and contaminated food may or may not look, smell, or taste bad. If in doubt, toss it out.
Come on back, because I've got to show you the juice. Which one of you guys put the eggs in here sideways?
Check eggs before refrigerating, discarding those with cracks.
Oh, get out of here, Magoo.
Clean spills promptly and wash your hands after contact with pets.
And also, always keep your meats down at the bottom. You see this meat here? Put it in the bottom so that if it drips, it'll fall at the bottom of the refrigerator and not on your fresh fruits and vegetables.
So that's a great tip. You want to make sure that you put your meat as low in the refrigerator as you can when it's raw. You don't want any of the juices from the meat to come out and get on anything else when it's thawing or waiting to be cooked. So if you can't put it all the way at the bottom, also consider putting it on a tray with a lip or on a plate or within another Ziploc bag, anything to keep it kind of safe so nothing else in your fridge could possibly be contaminated.
Always keep your fresh fruits and vegetables down here. Okay? And in a safe bin. Apples and that kind of thing, they all go in a nice safe bin up at the top, okay? You know what to do, right? You may eat them, but first wash your hands, warm water, wash the fruits, okay? All right, look at this free.
Washing your fresh produce can be really important too. You want to make sure you get any pesticides, dirt, stuff like that off of them before you consume it. You also want to consider that it's very possible that somebody in the store picked up the apple and put it back down. So make sure you wash your stuff off. You don't always have to use soap or anything like that. You can just rinse it off with warm water and use your hands, which you did wash first. So yeah, make sure you're washing those fruits and vegetables.
Freezers. Meat on top of the ice. You should
Wrap frozen foods tightly to prevent loss of quality. And keep food off ice trays. To prevent bacterial growth, set your refrigerator temperature at 41 degrees Fahrenheit. Keep foods as cold as possible without freezing. Don't.
So when foods that are supposed to be cold get too warm, or when foods that are supposed to be hot get too cold, you run into the temperature danger zone. So you want to make sure your fridge is 40 degrees or less. And you want to make sure that when food is out to be eaten and is supposed to be hot, it's at least 140 degrees.
Let your food make you sick.
How you guys doing, okay?
Yeah.
Thaw foods in the refrigerator, cold water or microwave.
Dry your hands off. Would you please go over and put the potatoes away from me and the onions in the pantry in a nice dry place?
And store items like potatoes and onions in a cool, dry place. Do not store any food directly on the floor.
You don't want your potatoes and onions to go right on the floor because of potential bugs and critters getting into them. If you don't have a good shelf or anything like that, even find a nice sturdy bin or a bag to put the bag inside of to keep it safe.
Hey, what are you guys doing playing with this can? You guys shouldn't be playing with this can. Come on over here and help me put these cans away. Let me show you how to do this.
Store older cans in front.
New cans in the back. But after we get the yogurt out of here, who put yogurt in here?
And refrigerate.
So that's a good point that she just made. I hope at home everybody is using the first in, first out method. You want your canned goods that are going to expire first to get eaten first. That's both for food safety as well as for your budget.
Refrigerate any perishables made with eggs or dairy products.
Let's get these cans. Hey, this can is dented.
Discard dented, swollen, or leaking cans.
If you find that a can is swollen or has a really, really big dent in it, you want to get rid of it because it could cause botulism or other types of problems like that.
Thanks, guys. Everybody out.
Yes!
This kitchen looks clean, doesn't it? Look at it now. It's crawling with germs. These neon spots are harmful bacteria spread by contact with contaminated hands, utensils, and work surfaces. To prevent bacterial contamination, clean up your act. Wash hands, utensils, and cutting surfaces thoroughly between jobs, especially when handling raw foods. Keep garbage in a covered trash container and empty daily. Wash fruits and vegetables thoroughly in running water. Clean up as you go. Dirty sinks and drains invite unwanted guests, so keep them clean and clear. Load dishes, including cooking and cleaning utensils, in the dishwasher. Non-porous plastic or acrylic cutting boards, unlike wood ones where bacteria can hide in the grain, are easier to clean and sanitize. Washing with hot, soapy water is usually sufficient to protect against foodborne bacteria. For added protection, use a sanitizing solution of 1 teaspoon liquid bleach to 1 quart of warm water. That's 1 teaspoon liquid bleach to 1 quart of warm water. And keep cleaning products away from food products. If you use sponges or dishcloths, make sure they're clean. These items act as carriers, spreading germs. So wash them often and replace every few weeks. Cook foods thoroughly to kill bacteria. These microscopic hitchhikers reside in as well as on food. To be safe, always use a meat thermometer.
Note how she put that thermometer in. She picked a very thick part of the chicken, and that's important. When you're cooking meats, sometimes some parts will be a little bit thicker than others, and those parts are going to take longer to cook. So if you pick a piece of the chicken that's too small, it might read that it's cooked through, but the thicker pieces that you plan on eating as well may not be. So that's a really good first tip. Another good thing she did is that she picked a piece that is far away from any kind of bones or cartilage. Those get hot a lot faster than meat itself. So if her thermometer accidentally touched a piece of bone, it would read as being very hot, when potentially the chicken still isn't cooked all the way through and that's not the right temperature that they're reading. You also want to think about when we're doing things on the stovetop or on a grill, make sure that your thermometer goes in at an angle that it doesn't accidentally touch the frying pan or the grill, whatever you're using. The metal will again read very, very hot, and you don't want to read that temperature instead of the meat. You want to make sure that the meat is cooked through.
Refrigerate promptly. If left unrefrigerated more than 2 hours, even cooked food can become unsafe. Divide food into small, shallow containers for safe, quick cooling and storage. Remember, keep hot foods hot and cold foods cold.
Okay, kids, come and get it.
Yeah!
You can wipe out contamination by following these simple food safety rules. Don't wait, refrigerate. Store perishables immediately and keep raw and cooked foods apart. Keep it clean. Wash working surfaces, utensils, and hands after touching raw meat, fish, and poultry. Cook it well. Keep hot foods hot, above 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and cold foods cold, below 41 degrees Fahrenheit. When in doubt, throw it out. Contaminated food may or may not look, smell, or taste bad. Stop food poisoning before it stops you.
All right, so that was the video. So like I said, it's a little outdated and a little cheesy, but the information is very good. So next we're going to pull up a couple of handouts to just kind of recap a few things that the video talked about and maybe mention a couple other things that it didn't quite touch on. So you may remember at the beginning of this video, I said that there were 4 components to having food, to doing food safety, excuse me. Those 4 components are clean, separate, cook, and chill. So I'm going to start on the page about clean. So a lot of this was discussed in the video. It kind of starts with this big 3. The first one is about washing your hands, which they said many times, but I really just want to highlight right here where it says to do it for 20 seconds. So you want to make sure that you've got 20 full seconds of scrubbing going on using warm water and soap. The second important piece is to make sure that your kitchen itself is clean before you start cooking. You want to make sure that any dishes, utensils, cutting boards you're going to use are clean, your countertops are nice and clean, and you want to make sure that you have enough cutting boards to separate your meat out from your vegetables so that there's no cross-contamination, which we'll talk about further in a minute. You also want to think about the towels and sponges in your kitchen, and every once in a while make sure that you've cleaned them in the last 1 to 2 weeks. Fabric towels, of course, can go right in the wash, so that's great. Sponges can be put in the microwave for 30 seconds to boil some bacteria out. However, that can only be done once, maybe twice, before you get a new sponge again. Keep that in mind. And paper towels, of course, you don't wash at all. You just throw away and get new ones when you're ready again. So those are all very food-safe options. Down at the bottom of this first page, they do talk about bleach, which the video did touch on, but I just want to remind everybody that you want about 1 tablespoon of bleach per gallon of water. So in a full sink of warm water, that's 1 to 2 tablespoons usually. So check out how big your sink is and what you think the right amount is. You don't want to overdo it because you don't want to end up ingesting any bleach in the long run. The next sheet is separate. So separate is talking about a few different things. It's talking about being in the grocery store and keeping your meat away from all of your fruits and vegetables. It's also talking about being at home and having separate cutting boards, countertops, things like that for your meats and your vegetables, again, to avoid that cross-contamination. So a few things that we haven't really talked about yet relate to barbecue season. So you want to make sure you clean your plate. So when you have a plate full of burgers, let's say, and you take it out to the grill and you grill the burgers, you don't want to put those cooked burgers back on the plate that previously had the raw ones, because that would create some cross-contamination and you could end up ingesting the germs from raw meat. You also want to think about your marinade if you're doing chicken or steaks or anything like that. If you marinated your meat overnight and now you want to brush that marinade onto the food you're cooking, there's two different ways to do that in a way that is food safe. So the night before, you could have put aside some of the marinade so it's fresh and clean and never had any raw meat in it, and you can just go right ahead and use that. If you didn't do that, you can take the marinade that you have left, put it on the stovetop for a few minutes and let it come to a boil. That way you can be sure that you cooked any bacteria out of it and it's safe to put on your now cooking meat again. You also want to think about your grocery cart at the store. If you're going to be purchasing meat or poultry, you might want to consider putting it at the bottom of your cart or within another container, such as a plastic bag, or buying the meats that come in the plastic non-drip containers. That way you don't create any cross-contamination in your cart. So then we have cook. So cook talks about a lot of things, mainly about temperatures. You really want to make sure that if you're consuming meat, poultry, eggs, fish, that they're all cooked to the right temperature so that you don't ingest any bacteria from under or uncooked meats. So you may remember from the video that the mother made a full turkey and she used a meat thermometer. So I want to remind you again to make sure you're using the thermometer in a nice thick part of the meat, not near any bones, not near any cartilage. Make sure you're getting a good temperature reading. Right here on this sheet, we do have a list of temperatures. So I just want to run through that real quick. You will see everything pretty much gets heated up from 140 to 165. 140 only comes up once, and that is for pre-cooked reheating things. So we'll talk about that in a minute. When it comes to cooking regular meat, eggs, poultry, fish, you want to cook everything between 145 and 165 on the first go around. So ground meats, if it's a red meat ground meat, you want it cooked to 160 degrees. If it's a poultry ground meat, you want it cooked to 165 to be sure that that's been cooked all the way through. You don't ever really cook any ground meats to anything below all the way through. For cuts of meat like steak, pork chops, lamb chops, things like that, you want to cook your meat to at least 145 degrees. You can cook it all the way up to 165 degrees depending on what you're cooking. Steak, for example, if you like it rare, 145 is a good temperature to cook it to, but you can cook it all the way up to 165 at a well done. 145 is the minimum safe temperature for that. Poultry, all of our birds, you'll see get cooked to at least 165, and that includes stuffing that's made in a bird or with pieces of poultry in it. Those all need to be cooked to 165 to be sure that any bacteria have been cooked out of the poultry. Ham products are naturally salty, so they can be cooked to 145, just like our big cuts of meat. If it's pre-cooked, like pre-cooked bacon or pre-cooked ham, you can just go ahead and heat it to 140 because it's been heated through to a safe temperature once before. Eggs can be a little bit difficult. You can't exactly take a meat thermometer and put it in a scrambled egg or put it in a sunny side up egg because that kind of either doesn't work or ruins the point depending on what kind of eggs you like. So you really just want to make sure that if it's scrambled, it's a nice dry scramble. Pretty easy to tell with just your eyes. If you like an egg that's a little bit runny, you really just want to make sure at minimum that the white part of the egg is nice and firm. If you wiggle the frying pan, you don't want the white part to move very much. That way you know that hopefully the middle has been cooked to a safe temperature as well. Seafood can also be difficult. If you have a nice big piece of fish, like a tuna steak or a salmon steak, you can usually take your meat thermometer and go ahead and temp it just like you would any other cut of meat, in which case you want it to be at least 145 degrees. For other types of seafood, it can be hard to use a meat thermometer. They don't exactly fit in a shrimp or go in a clam that way. So there's a couple visual cues you want to look for. For shrimp, lobster, and crab, you want it to be fleshy, pearly, and opaque, which basically means you want it to be a nice solid white color all the way through. You can't see through it. Same goes for scallops. You want them to be white all the way through, nice and firm, not too wiggly. You don't want it wiggling like Jell-O. You want it to be firm. Clams, oysters, and mussels, you want to cook until they're hot enough that they pop open and you can see the meat inside. The last component of food safety that we mentioned I accidentally closed out of. Let's see. Great, so the last sheet is chill. And chill refers usually to after dinner when you're dealing with leftovers and putting everything away. You want to make sure a few things. First of all, you want to make sure that your fridge is at least 40 degrees or lower. You don't want it to go as low as 32 because of course stuff may start to freeze. A few other tips, you want to avoid the pack attack right here. So you want to be able to picture the cool air in your fridge going around and touching all the sides of all of your food so that it's the right temperature. When you're thawing food before you cook, you want to make sure that you're thawing it in the fridge or in cold water. You don't really just want to leave it out on the counter. It's not a very safe way to thaw your meat. Bacteria could grow. If you're really in a hurry and you need a fast way to safely thaw, you can put it in the microwave. Also, don't forget down here, hit the road cold. So if you happen to be traveling and you're in charge of bringing some sort of food to any kind of event, you always want to think about having it travel at a safe temperature. So here it's discussing cold foods. You want to make sure that you have things on ice or in a cooler, in a freezer bag. But don't forget that that applies to hot foods as well. If you're traveling with a hot casserole or a hot dish like that, you want to make sure it's in a bag that'll help keep it warm. So just think about those types of things. You don't want any extra bacteria to be growing. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today was food recalls. So if you happen to see online or see on the news at night that a certain food is being recalled and you want to know if it's a product that you have in your house and you can't tell just based on the packaging or based on the news story, there's a few different things you can do. First, you can go to USDA.gov's on their recall page and you can look into it. They'll show pictures, they'll give exact plant numbers, dates, expiration dates, things like that to help you decide if your product has been recalled. Something that's sometimes a little bit easier is just calling up your local grocery store where you went shopping. If you bought it in a store, you can give them a call, describe the product, and they might be able to help you decide if it was recalled or not. Honestly, if you're still unsure, you can always take the product right down to a store, and the store will usually allow you to swap it out for a different, similar product at no charge to you. They want all of their customers to be safe and healthy. If you guys have any questions about food safety, about recalls, about anything discussed today, please give myself or your educator a call. We can answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.